Last of Us episode 3. Alan, why don't you tell us about this episode, and then we'll launch into our impressions just briefly. And we are going to be talking spoilers. I mean, it's been out since Sunday. It's Friday, so we're going to assume that you have seen it. Let's talk about this episode. And I think some of the thoughts are going to cross over with this and Knock at the Cabin. But Alan, tell us briefly about episode 3 of The Last of Us.
So I think episode 3 of The Last of Us can be considered a side episode, meaning it doesn't, you could cut it out, and it's not necessarily an anchor point to the main story. But that said, it happens in television all the time. We see it in television all the time, so it's not a big deal to me. So Nick Offerman's character, is it Bill? Sorry, I should
Bill.
Really okay, so Bill here, he's a survivalist. This is early on in the pandemic, the zombie apocalypse. And he has set up his home, gated it, surrounded it. He has booby traps everywhere, surveillance. He's bunkered in, and he's about to live the rest of his life in complete isolation. One day, this guy Frank stumbles along. He's being chased. He's hungry. He comes up to Bill. Bill doesn't trust him. And somehow Bill's defenses are down, and he allows Frank to come in, gives him a shower, gives him some food, and sends him on his way. But in an instant of compassion, decides to let him stay the night. At which point, Frank finds a piano, tries to play it. Bill takes over, plays the Linda Ronstadt song. They make out. Bill goes, takes a shower, and then they're both naked. And so thus begins the love story. And so from that point on until where we are at The Last of Us, we see the evolution of this relationship. And there's a point in which marauders come on board. Oh, by the way, they meet Joel and Tess. They strike up kind of a relationship, and Joel warns him that marauders may be coming, so always be on the lookout. Don't feel safe. Marauders come. Bill here gets injured, and so this idea of that Bill and Frank are that as much as they love each other and as much as they are in this kind of paradise, love doesn't. They this idea of happily ever after. It's a fleeting moment because like a good love story, something bad has to happen, and that's what happens here. And I'll leave it at that because if you haven't seen it, I think it's worth waiting to the end. I think what's bothering me most about this is the hype behind it. Because the day after, yesterday and the day before, I'm going on social media, and there's just nothing but post after post that this is the greatest gay love story ever, that this is the greatest story ever told. And as much as I like the story, and I don't really have a problem with the story, I just feel like I don't know why people are pushing this so hard, and the conspiracy theorist in me says that it's like as much as I accept gay marriage as normal in this society, I feel like this is just a hard press to convince people that it feels political in nature as opposed to just telling a story. And the other thing about this story compared to Knocking the Cabin is that this is rushed. I think the episode is a little over an hour long, but even that is like you have to accept the fact that they're in love and so you have this one episode to buy into this love story where I feel like love stories need time to breathe, and if they had kind of stretched it out over 2 or 3 episodes, I think the ending of it would be much more impactful. Instead of feeling forced like it was, and I don't know. I feel like I'm bothered by the way it was presented and the way it's being pushed right now, and it's kind of souring me to the story altogether.
Well, again, it's another story. First of all, I really enjoyed this episode. I have a problem with it. It's not the actual episode itself.
Mhm.
The problem I have with this episode is it was done so early in the storytelling of The Last of Us. We have literally had 2 episodes to get to know Joel and Ellie, and now suddenly we're doing a side quest episode that isn't about Joel and Ellie. I mean, it does tie in at the end, which is fine. Um, but I felt like this is way too early. This is what you do when you're
Mhm.
like, 10 episodes into the show. You do like a side quest episode, right? Where you sort of take a step away from our lead characters and their journey. And I felt it was just too soon. This is episode 10, not episode 3 when we're so early. So that's kind of a problem that I had with it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
let
think it's
me address that for a second. The whole point
yeah.
of this episode is, Joel finally gets a car battery.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Well, yeah,
that's the
I
so
guess it
that's
ties
why
in.
that's the connection between this and the overall story. Joel needs a car battery.
Joel needs a car battery, but look, no, I really really enjoyed this episode for this reason, um, because of the what it's about underneath the surface.
Mhm.
This is about the despair and the heartache that would come with an apocalypse, and also some of the great parts about it. I mean, Bill initially before he meets Frank is happy. He's been prepping for the apocalypse forever and it finally happens. He's going to the hardware store, he's got his tractor, he's going and grabbing food, he's getting wine
This is
everywhere.
what he was meant. This is all his life's work of being a survivalist now comes into play.
Now comes his paid off. He's happy. It reminds me of Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead by George Romero, where they're like in the mall and they have everything they could possibly want. I mean, they jokingly like break into a vault and in a safe filled with money, but it's worthless. The money is worthless. They have everything they could possibly want when it comes to shopping, but they're stuck in a mall. And what is the purpose in life? And so, what Bill, I think, comes to realize, which is why his relationship with Frank escalated so quickly, is that there's more to life. There's more.
Yeah, and that's kind of
You need to have
explained near the end. Yeah, absolutely.
purpose, not just, and the purpose shouldn't be just to survive. The purpose is to connect and to have a purpose. And I think that's why it's
Well,
difficult to
yeah,
describe. Let me
to
finish.
live for someone else. I think that's
Yes,
the ultimate purpose of humanity is to live beyond just your own selfish needs, but to have to care for someone else.
right. But it's also like the kind of purpose that comes with, and it's really difficult to explain, and no disrespect to those of you who don't have children, but having kids at a young age changed my life. Changed my life. Um in 2 ways. It just One, I have a terrible memory. I used to have a photographic memory up until I had kids, and my understanding is for some people, like it's like your brain reprograms, and it's almost like a hard drive that sequesters a certain part just for your kids. So since I had kids, my memory is not as good as it used to be. And secondly, also it just gives you purpose. It gives you purpose in life, because you have these people who you're responsible for, and you need to teach them as much as possible before you move on, before you pass on, so that they can survive without you. That's a huge responsibility. It changed everything about me. I feel like people who don't have children don't understand that. That's why when I see like debates on social media and a lot of opinions coming from people that don't have children, I don't think you really have a right to have that opinion. And from where I sit, you sit in my shoes and have kids, and then maybe you can. I'm talking about people that probably we don't like. Probably we would be in agreement
Mhm.
we don't like having opinions about how kids should be raised. I'll be doing that myself. Thank you very much. Excuse me.
Yeah,
But
when I think to your point, it's not that if you don't have children, you don't have right to opinion, but if you don't have children, you don't have the right to tell people who do how you should raise those children.
That's exactly right. We'll get to your comments in a moment, but
Mm.
But I really enjoyed this episode. And the other thing is, it's even great because this episode is not particularly political. It could have been, but what I love about it is, again, you've got a non-stereotypical person who happens to be gay, and for Bill, he's what you would call a latent homosexual, right? Who comes out at an older age, realizes he's gay. That is a thing, and he is he's having some trepidation about it, comes to accept himself. And so Bill's story, I think really plays out well. And it's not all about them being gay, right? And I would even argue that, again, it's another example of probably someone who's more leaning conservative, who's gay. It's not a stereotypical, as Hollywood would normally portray, like in Movie Bros, which is, I think, is a terrible.
As much as we know about Nick Offerman, I wouldn't necessarily call him a woke progressive. In fact, there are aspects of his life that I think wokeness would attack him for, like his love of meat, for one thing.
Like a Nick Offerman. I read his biography. What's it called? It's like Build Your Own Canoe.
Yeah, that was it.
The book is called Pedal Your Own Canoe: One Man's Fundamentals for Delicious Living. And it's kind of the story of his life, but it's also like just his philosophy on things. He talks about watching Twin Peaks in college, which is great. It's such a great thing. But I read that book years ago, and his character, he's not exactly like his character in Parks and Rec, but aspects of it.
Yeah. And I would recommend, if you are a fan of meat and question veganism, see the movie Sacred Cow, which he narrates.
Yeah. So
you've seen that one, haven't you?
What's that? The
Sacred Cow?
Oh, no, I haven't.
It's a meat documentary, basically.
Oh, I have not seen that.
That is a great documentary, and he is, his voice. I think the other thing that about this, and getting back to the political, I wish kind of this episode existed in a political vacuum, and therefore you could just enjoy it for the story itself. But there's so much political baggage we carry nowadays, especially when it comes to gay stories. But forever, for the last 10 years, it's like, why are straight people playing gay characters? And this resistance to do that, and I feel like, by saying, oh, well, this resolves the argument that straight people can play gay characters, it's like, do we have any values? I'm not saying they shouldn't or they should. I don't care, but there's the hypocrisy of it. The hypocrisy of complaining about certain people who do and certain people who don't. It's either all or nothing. You either let straight actors play gay characters, you either let gay characters play actors play straight characters, or you don't. You can't complain about it and have this vitriol for it when you allow it in some cases and not in others. That this is my problem with the woke movement, is there's no foundation in their rage. It's just they feel angry at this, but that's okay, and this is okay, and there's just no way to judge the issue. And I say, forget it. Let people play characters that they want to play.
Well, we're going to talk about this next week in more depth. We don't have time today, but there's some articles that have come out I want to go over. And really what's happening is, like, wokeness is just eating itself.
Yeah.
Now it's like, they're just attacking everyone internally. And Christian Toto, who writes about this a lot, is going to be on the podcast. It's going to be here in the next week or two talking about this. We're going to have him on the show because I've always liked Christian Toto and his work.